Good evening, everyone. Or should I say good morning? Because right now, as I am filming, it is exactly 6:18 in the morning. So, if you hear me whispering a little bit lower than normal, that's the reason why. And everybody else is asleep, and I really don't want to wake them up, so that's the reason why I'm kind of like lowering my voice down a little bit. Also, please excuse the fact that I'm not wearing any makeup today because I literally just got out of bed not that long ago, and I couldn't really sleep, to be honest, so that's the reason why I am filming today, because obviously I can't sleep, and I figured while I'm awake I may as well go ahead and so I kind of figured I would do a little bit of a tag video today, and that tag video in particular is called Living as an Atheist tag. Some of these questions on here looked really interesting to try to answer. And to be honest with you guys, this is more of a serious kind of video today, which kind of explains the reason why I'm not like doing an intro to this video or anything else like that. I kind of figured. So, that is the reason why I am making a somewhat serious video today. This is more of a serious kind of topic for today, so that explains the reason why I'm not filming an intro to this video. So if you guys are interested in learning about myself growing up as an atheist, then go ahead and please keep on watching, and I'm happy to try to answer some of these questions. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and dive right on into these questions in particular. Okay, so question number one. There are two parts to this question, but I will get to that in a moment. But first, it says, were you raised atheist, or did you have a religious upbringing of some sort? So the first part to this question asks, if raised religious, when and why did you become an atheist? What was the transition like for you, your family, etc.? Was this a quick transition or a slow one? Was it easy for you or difficult? And then part two to this question asks, if raised atheist, have you ever been drawn to religion at any point in your life? Why or why not? So to answer the question on whether or not I was raised as an atheist or had a religious upbringing, I am definitely happy and relieved to say that I was raised as an atheist, and I did not have a religious upbringing of some sort. So I thought that's pretty nice, considering the fact that there's a lot of people in this world that grow up very religious, and the fact that some of them had a very strict religious upbringing and stuff like that. So I was definitely one of the lucky few in that regards. And to answer the question on whether or not I've been drawn to religion at any point in my life, well, when I was really little, I was probably more curious about religion and stuff like that. And there's all kinds of different aspects of religion. Some of them I'm probably not even aware of, to be honest. But I wouldn't say I was drawn to it, but I was definitely very curious about most of them. One religion in particular, and that is of course Buddhism. I find Buddhism to be fascinating for some weird reason, even though I've never read or looked up on it. It kind of got me curious for a while, but I never bothered to look into it. But regarding if I've ever been drawn to it, or any other aspects of religion, the answer would be that I was not interested in wanting to be religious or to be a part of religious organizations or anything like that. I didn't feel comfortable doing that, so I guess that would be the answer to this question, I suppose. Question number 2 is, overall, would you say that other people's belief in God is a good thing, bad thing, or something you are indifferent about? Why? To be honest with you guys, my mind is caught in between indifferent and bad in a sense, to be honest, and I will explain my reason why. Firstly, I want to say ahead of time that I do understand that, some people do have pretty good intentions, and that what they try to do is try to do good in other people's life per se. But, the thing is with religion, I think it poisons a lot of people's minds, and the fact that people think that they're doing good is actually damaging people in a way, because if you think about it, for example, in the Christian Bible, people that are religious or have a religious upbringing, especially a very strict religious upbringing, an example of that would be that people believing that homosexuality is like a sort of, for some of those people, thinking that it's somewhat kind of sinister, kind of bothers me, because people like that say it's a choice when really it's not really a choice. Some people were definitely born that way, and especially with people who have a gender dysphoria issue, it's almost dehumanizing in a way, to be honest, because if you think about it, I'm not saying all, but some people with a very strict religious upbringing would be very strict on their beliefs, like for example the Catholic Church, thinking that you'll go to hell if you take birth control, or little things like how they'll say like very strong things against the LGBTQ plus community. Little things like that, it kind of bothers me, and the fact that people are till this very day indoctrinated to think that religion does good in someone's life kind of bothers me a little bit, because to me indoctrination is like a form of abuse, almost mental and emotional abuse, which of course I know is pretty hard for a lot of people, and it's very hard, I know that for sure, especially when there's so much good you could do outside of the Bible, and the fact that you get people out there that think that, you can't have a greater purpose in life without God, that somehow there's no point to life. That's kind of a disturbing thought to me, because it's something you have to discover for yourself. It's not something you just have to randomly guess in the world, you know what I mean? I could go on about this kind of stuff, but long story short, religion has been known to cause a lot of tragedies and conflicts, and some of those tragedies and conflicts have resulted into wars that happened in the past, and even currently right now in the present. It's kind of like a bit of a troublesome thing to think about, but that's my stance on why I feel kind of indifferent and feeling like it's bad in a way. question number 3 is, have you ever been treated differently by people because you were an atheist? If so, please describe this in full detail. To be honest with you guys, I do feel kind of oppressed trying to speak up about my atheism. I know atheism itself can be quite controversial because, we actually challenge people with these sort of belief systems, and that, we provide a lot of questions. And to be honest with you, regarding, things about my atheism and my whole vegan lifestyle is just something that I try to avoid talking about, as much as I am very passionate about these 2 subjects in particular. As much as I enjoy, talking about certain controversial subjects in particular, and, outside of theater and stuff like that. I know this is going to sound very hypocritical for me to say, but I just don't like dealing with drama and trying to get other people's minds across, because, I know that I'm not going to change everybody's mind. I do know that. But I do find it mentally and emotionally draining, to be honest, because people have been indoctrinated to believe in these sort of systems, and the fact that we're questioning and actually challenging these people are something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, logically or otherwise. To answer number 3, it took me a while to really think about this, and now that I think about it even more, luckily I didn't have anything, extreme happen to me where, I was threatened with hell if I didn't believe in God, or the fact that, they're trying to, harass or try to bother me thinking like my soul needs to be saved or something. But there are a few things I do want to mention, though. Thinking about it more thoroughly, one good example of this is with my ex-boyfriend. I mean, I still talk to him now, but last summer he and we got into an argument. I do remember explaining it briefly in a vegan mukbang sometime last year during Thanksgiving or whatever. But basically, long story short, to try to cover the story as much as I possibly can, basically, he's a Christian, I'm an atheist. When I first started to talk to him online, he and we clicked very well, and it really surprised me, him telling me that he was a Christian, because I'm not saying all Christians are like that, but people that get into science usually don't talk about religion too much, and I don't know why my brain automatically thought that, he wasn't religious, but some really good scientists can be religious and some good scientists can be atheist. So I think it kind of goes both ways, hand in hand a little bit. But basically, it had something to do with a post that he seen on my Instagram page, and basically the saying was, "My body is a temple, please keep your faith out of it." I went into full detail about my stance on religion and stuff like that, and when he read that post, he got really defensive, and it's almost like he found out that I murdered somebody years ago. That's the best analogy I can put it. It really did upset me because I put all of my trust into someone. I didn't even bring up religion to him. He just kind of brought it up when he viewed my Instagram page. and he was saying some of these things that were kind of offensive to me, and I basically told him, if searching for a good Christian woman is more of a priority to you, then I'm sorry, you're gonna have to move on and find somebody else. And he and I argued, but we somehow made up for that one. There were a lot of complications with our relationship other than that, which I'm not gonna fully explain on, but basically, he and I are friends now, and we still talk to each other and stuff like that, but I wouldn't say we're back together or anything. We're just mainly talking. And another thing I really wanted to bring up is my grandmother. I wouldn't say she was raised being a strict Catholic, but she did had a Catholic upbringing from my great-grandmother. Eventually she did leave the religion, especially after she married Grandpa and stuff like that. And of course, I wouldn't say she's still Catholic, but a part of her is a bit agnostic in a way, because maybe it was the religious upbringing that she had, but she still believes in some kind of high power per se. And when her and I talk about religion, I mentioned to her that I was like some kind of atheist. She would point out, no, you are not atheist, you are agnostic. And then I basically, told my grandmother, like, you know what, it's atheism, being agnostic, being skeptic, it kind of falls under the same category. What people fail to recognize is that it's a lack of belief in God. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't believe in God. It's just that, there's no evidence to prove a point that, God exists. It's funny to me because people will claim that God exists when there's no scientific evidence to prove that God exists. Does that make sense? For as long as I can remember, the thing I value most in this world is like logic, reasoning, and truth, which is very surprising coming from somebody like me who doesn't really know much about science. And I really don't get into this topic too much, but I do know some parts of it that I have more respect for. The fact that there's research and scientific evidence to back that up, I feel like that's something people don't necessarily get. And another thing that bothers me is, if you think about it, it doesn't make much sense to say that, my favorite TV show is when it's turned off, or like my favorite hairstyle is bald, it just doesn't make any sense. And the fact that people view atheism as like a type of religion, it has nothing to do with religion at all, because, there's no belief system in that. But there's things that my grandmother and I kind of disagree on, and that's fine. She has a Catholic upbringing. I try to respect and understand where she's coming from in her point of view. But a lot of the things that I mention about like certain aspects of religion, she kind of agrees with me. So her and I are definitely on the same page with that. But I guess those are the two things I can actually think of when being treated differently with people finding out I'm an atheist. Question number 4 is, if not a religious person, do you consider yourself a spiritual person? Why or why not? To be honest with you guys, I wouldn't necessarily say that I am a sort of spiritual person, because the reason why or why not being is that I have a lot of questions regarding certain aspects of religion. each religion has their own sort of view and stance and strict rules regarding, how they view certain ways of life, I guess you could say. But I do have a lot of questions regarding certain parts of religion, so I wouldn't necessarily say that I am a spiritual person. However, there are some things I do think about regarding, the whole afterlife thing. It made me wonder what happens if people end up dying, whether it's like an eternal sleep, whether or not there's going to be some form of afterlife, like if people become reborn or reincarnated, whether or not that there's some kind of nirvana in the afterlife. Those are the things I do have a lot of questions about, and unfortunately, till this very day, not very many people think about it that way. But there's a part of me that think that my dad is waiting on the other side of the world for me when my time comes up. I remember having these dreams about him when he first passed away. And I feel like these dreams I have about my dad are kind of like connecting in a way. I mean, it's a dream, obviously, but that gives me comfort knowing that there's probably something more to the afterlife than what people may not be able to think. It's really hard to explain, it really is. I'm the type of person that has to see certain things to believe it, but there's a feeling I get that there's something good that comes in the afterlife. And you know what? Maybe heaven doesn't exist. Maybe hell doesn't even exist. You never know. But I do believe hell is a made-up place for people to feel scared, but that's a whole different story. There's a part of me that does question a lot, but I wouldn't say I'm spiritual because there's a lot of questions about life that I have that nobody has given me the answer to. Final question at number 5 is, for many people, belief in God provides hope or comfort with the respect to suffering in the world and to the inevitability of death. As an atheist, how have you come to terms with these things? So, a lot of people turn to religion to provide comfort based off of those two things, but the thing that really gets me, that I feel people are lacking the understanding of, and this kind of goes back to regarding my post that I posted on my Instagram, and it is the fact that people make out God as if he's some kind of moral high ground. The thing that kind of gets me is, if God is considered to be the creator of all things, then why is there so much suffering in this world? He is also responsible for the death and suffering that's caused to all the innocent people of the world. People that are starving in third world countries, and people that die from illnesses in the West, and all these tragedies and wars. There's just so much hatred and judgment in this world, and I feel like a lot of people nowadays are very lacking in compassion and understanding. There's a lot of things that religion tries to teach people what's good and what's bad, when in reality it's just strict rules that people have to follow by, for one thing. And the fact that people are very lacking in compassion and their own emotions is something that I find kind of concerning. If people claim that God is the most greatest thing in the universe and that he's capable of doing so many good things and good miracles, and the most horrible things that are interpreted in the Bible is just very concerning. A lot of things in the Bible are actually very concerning to me. There's a lot of violence, discrimination, and misogynistic things that make me feel very uncomfortable. And I'm not just saying this as an atheist, but coming from a perspective of a human being is something I usually think about. So the whole idea of this whole free will thing, it just kind of pisses me off in a sense, because there's just so many deaths and tragedies in this world that I am almost led to believe that, you know what, maybe God does not actually exist after all, because a lot of people are more violent than ever before, and people are very lacking in respecting the differences of other people. It's very concerning to me about society in particular. It's just very upsetting for me to really kind of talk about and discuss, because how can anybody look up to and respect somebody that does all these tragedies in this world? If something good happens in your life, he's great. If something bad happens, he moves in mysterious ways. And that's something I'll never be able to understand. To be honest with you guys, I lost my faith in humanity a long time ago, so at this point, it really does not matter what I believe in anymore. I just don't understand how anybody could look up to someone of a high moral high ground when there's a lot of things that are interpreted in certain aspects of religion that is very damaging to a lot of people, in a sense. Like stoning to death homosexuals, or how you're supposed to treat slaves, or that you're supposed to stay in an abusive relationship. I don't know. I just don't get it. People look up to him as though he's like some kind of great human being, when there's a lot of violent and evil things that are actually interpreted in these holy books. And especially somebody like me who's a vegan, this is a whole completely different story, and something that I'll have to get to in another video. But the fact that people are not willing to treat animals with the same amount of respect to life as human beings kind of shows that there's a whole lack of compassion, more than what people actually think and know. And if people are not willing to treat animals with kindness and respect to their own lives in particular, then how can you expect humans to treat each other the same way? That's another thought I had. The fact that people are so close-minded, critical thinking and logic and reasoning is something I feel kind of lacks in today's society. The fact that religion has become so normalized kind of scares the living shit out of me. Because statistically speaking, I'm not saying all people with religious backgrounds are like this, but some people with a religious upbringing are most likely to be very hateful people, very judgmental. People like that are most likely to commit a serious crime regarding rape or molestation of children. I just don't get how people could look up to God or people in certain religion communities that do more damage to people than they do with actual good. And if God really did created that type of world for people to live in, then he is truly a very psychotic being that I've ever met in my life. And the fact that somebody could sit there and watch you as if you're being thrown into a shark tank is something I'll never be able to understand. If some random person decided to come up to me and say that I'm supposed to value them over my own family, I have no particular reason to tell those people to go fuck off. I've rambled on long enough over this stupid shit, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. So, those are the answer to my questions regarding the living as an atheist tag. I hope you guys learned something out of this video. I mean, I'm not really quite so sure what people's reactions are gonna be to this video because, to be honest with you guys, I was pretty hesitant on making this video in particular, regardless if it is based on atheism or, just doing this tag in particular. I was put off on it for a very long time because I know that it is kind of a controversial subject in a way, because the reason why atheism is so controversial is because we actually challenge people with these belief systems, and we try to get people to think about it outside of the box, and we're pretty much hated for saying that, you know what, I don't actually agree with you. I'm sorry, I just don't believe the same way that you do. I don't rely on an imaginary friend like what other people do, and the fact that people believe in that kind of stuff is like something you would argue with a 12-year-old about. The fact that I'm still arguing with people about this kind of stuff is something I find irritating, to be honest. I do understand that people turn to religion out of comfort and things like that. And you know what? Fair enough. I can't convince people to change their mind. But why should I tolerate very organized religions that promote bigotry and hatred and, misogyny and all this other type of stuff? And there's so much hypocrisy, you guys. It's not even funny. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video altogether, or that you learned something out of this video in particular. So if you did, be sure to sucker punch that like button down below, or dislike it if you hate my ideas. I don't know. It depends on how you view this video, I guess. Because I'm sure that there's gonna be someone in the comments section that are gonna try to convince me that I'm wrong or some dumb shit. That's gonna be very fun to deal with. But other than that, I hope you find this interesting. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Comment down below as well. Let me know if you guys are interested in doing this tag video in particular. And if you guys are interested in starting a little bit of a discussion with me, then I'm more than happy to elaborate, regardless if you are part of a religion or if you're an atheist. My mind is open at this point. Also, if you guys are completely new to this channel And if you haven't done so already, please do dedicate the time and effort to subscribe to my lovely channel, join my little army of darkness, and if you hit that notification button, you will be updated with brand new videos every single Friday. And of course, if you guys are interested in following me outside of YouTube, all of my social medias will be listed in the description box right down below if you are indeed interested in checking them out yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a completely chill week, an awesome day or night, and I will talk to you all soon in the next video. So until then, stay completely dark and so fucking brutal and awesome, my friends. Take care. Bye for now.